Well, hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Doctors Changing Medicine podcast. As you know, I'm always excited to bring stories to you of doctors who are literally changing medicine. And I have Dr. Kathy Stepien here, and you are not ready. This is going to be such a great interview. She is a board certified pediatrician. She's the director of the Institute for Physician Wellness. She's a certified coach. She does a lot of things, and we're going to be talking about those things. So I want you to lean in and get ready to be inspired and to really walk away with some steps that you're going to take after hearing this story, because you're like, wait a minute, that's possible. What could I do? So this is going to be so good. Dr. Stepien, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me. It's great to be here.
Absolutely. So I'm going to give you a moment. I know I did I did the really brief introduction, but I'm going to give you an opportunity to introduce yourself to the listeners. I know why I'm excited. You know why I'm excited, but they don't know. So I'll let you tell them.
So you're right. I wear a bunch of different hats. I'm a pediatrician and I continue to practice part-time and I love pediatrics. I am hoping to be one of those doctors that just like practices until they take my stethoscope out of my hands. So I am a pediatrician. I am also the director for the Institute for Physician Wellness, which is truly such an incredible joy for me to be able to support physician well-being and show up in so many different ways doing that. And I'm a coach, and I absolutely love coaching. So I started the Institute for Physician Wellness in 2016. I I had been wanting to develop an opportunity for physicians to come together, to grow, to learn, to heal, to connect, right? I think so many physicians can feel stuck or isolated or as if they're the only ones who might be struggling. And so I was wanting to develop that for a long time, but to be honest, I just wasn't ready. You know how you're not ready until you're ready? Well,
Right.
2016 came along and I'm like, I'm ready. I am all in. I had been doing similar activities prior to me becoming a physician. And so I just kind of drew on a whole variety of resources and started offering retreats and completely jumped off the cliff. I had no idea what I was doing, but I knew it was important and it was meaningful and it changed lives. And the physicians that came shared that with me, like how powerful it was for them. And so I kept offering retreats, and the retreats grew, and I kept doing more retreats. And over the years now, since 2016, we've just grown and grown and expanded what we're able to do, how we're able to help physicians in so many incredible ways. It's truly been a blessing.
Okay, you just took us through a whole whirlwind. And when you said that you started in 2016, um, I was like, wait a minute. I thought your business has been around for a lot longer than that. Like, really? And
Yeah.
so that is amazing, because you've done a fantastic job. You've built a really powerful brand, and you have so many stories of life change, and it's only been 6 years, or maybe barely been 6 years. So that's amazing. Now, I want to dig into something a little deeper, because I think for physicians this is really important. We have been sold this lie that we don't make good entrepreneurs, we don't know the world of business, we don't know this, we don't know that, and we should just stay in our lane. But you alluded to pulling on some experiences you had to then go on and start retreats, right? Like, so there's some things you had done in the past. And I don't think as physicians, we really stop to take inventory of all the experiences we've had, all the things we've done, and realize that we can pull that into this new phase, of this new phase, this new thing we're doing that we quote unquote don't know how to do at all. And so if you could talk a little bit more about that, I think it would be really helpful for someone to recognize that they actually have more skills, experiences, expertise than they actually realize.
I love that you asked about this because I think we can gloss over that and sell ourselves short. And it's such an important piece. My whole life, I have been a gatherer of people, right? My whole life, I look back, I'm like, wow, I was doing it in college. I was doing it in medical school. I was doing it every aspect of my life. So when I look back, of course, it was just a natural next step for me. And I'm so thankful for those earlier experiences that I could lean on and say, okay, well, when I put together this gathering of, whoever it might be, what worked or what didn't work. When for example, I became a mother during medical school, and I was 35, brand new mom, and felt isolated. It was like, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm in medical school. I'm busy. I don't know what I'm doing. So, of course, what do? I form an organization where other physicians who are parents all get together, and we've developed this beautiful community to support one another, right? So that's just one example to kind of lean back on. It's like, well, of course I did that. That's just how I am wired. And it's instances like that, experiences like that, that helped me as I started creating retreats for physicians. I had also, I should say, I had actually held previous retreats as well. So I had some experience in the retreat space as well, both as an attendee, but also as an organizer. And again, just reaching back and identifying, well, what am I naturally drawn to? And is that something I want to use as I go forward?
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing that because that concept really is a life changer. Because it's almost like we want to step into a new arena and we throw away all our experience. Like, I've never done anything like that. And I'm like, yeah, you've probably done quite a bit, but if you don't take inventory, you don't know. So my homework to everybody listening is you're going to take inventory today. What are my experiences? What are those expertise? What are those things I did inside and outside the exam room? Because all of that, you bring all of that to the table to do whatever it is you want to do. So thank you for sharing that. And so you decided that you were going to start the retreats, but I've looked at your bio. You've done a lot of things after that, right? So and this is a perfect story of not just an entrepreneur's journey, but somebody who decides, I see a problem, let me fix it. And then in solving that problem, I created new problems, so let me fix that too. And stuff like that. So kind of take us on a journey of starting with the retreats to all the things you do now, the impact you're having in the physician space and all of that.
It really has been an evolution. And I think it kind of speaks to the curious mind. Like so many physicians, we're curious human beings, right? And so we learn something, and then it's not necessarily the next squirrel. I mean, there's some of that too. It's like, oh, look, and then we dash off in a direction that doesn't help. But just in general, we learn something, and then there's the next thing to learn and the next thing to learn. And there's this lifelong growth and development. And we know that as pediatricians, right? There's this lifelong growth and development, expansion of who we are and what we're about and how we're showing up. And that's certainly been my process with IPW. It's certainly been my process in supporting physician wellness. So we started out with the retreats, um, talking about particular subjects, and then bringing in other people. I did a lot of work in self-compassion when I first started bringing physicians together. We talked a lot about self-compassion. We did kind of work into why we're so hard on ourselves, kind of some of that negativity bias, the inner critic, that kind of thing, and how with mindfulness and with self-compassion we can turn some of that around. And I knew people didn't want to just keep hearing me say the same old things all over and all over and all over. And so I thought it's really time to bring in some other voices and other experts also supporting physician wellness. So our retreats grew. Um, they grew in what we were offering and the topics that we were covering. And that went along. And by retreats, we've been doing retreats. We have a fall, winter, and spring retreat every year. So we're plus there's all the little retreats and things and the teaching and all of that in between. So there was a lot happening. And somewhere along the line, I discovered coaching. We had a coach come and speak at one of our retreats, and so I had been introduced to it. I worked with a coach, and in the very beginning, like, I'm not so sure if that's the right thing for me. Kind of like, I'm good. I was studying I was getting trained as a meditation instructor and meditation teacher. And I just thought, I'm going to focus my energy here. I don't really know that coaching is the right place for me right now. I don't know that's how I want to show up. Then I worked with a coach. I'm like, oh my goodness, where has this been all my life? Right. So then I studied as a coach, and then I went through the life coach school for training, and then I went in and studied with Coaches Rising. So a couple of different schools and different strategies. And now the retreats, we've shifted even more, keep evolving. So the retreats are really very coach oriented. It's working with me, digging into some of the things that are keeping physicians stressed, keeping them stuck, and helping them drop that and move forward into ways that really, I talk a lot about living your life well lived. So really creating that life that they want, that feels so joyful, that is purposeful and meaningful and just, wholehearted fun. So that's kind of what we're doing with the retreats and with coaching. And so I have my coaching program that we do in between retreats. We have our set program that we do on Zoom and we meet regularly. And then we have the retreats sprinkled through the year. And then, and I'm going to just keep talking if that's okay. Then we also have the Chief Wellness Officer Training and Certification Program. And that grew years ago. I really identified that we need to be working on our individual wellness, for sure, for sure. But we also need to change organizations, right? And it grew out of this dawning awareness, like, how are we going to have the impactful, meaningful change we need to have at that organizational level? And how can IPW support that? How can we keep promoting what we want to see in the world? So I've been working on a few different things, and finally invited Alicia Kowalski to come on board to lead our training and certification program. And so that's really fun as well, to be able to train physicians who are interested in physician wellness and have them become the leaders at their organization, right? So that they're in the C-suite, they are the experts that are running the programs in their institutions. So it all evolves. It all comes
Such a
together.
ride.
It's super fun. It's super fun. And I think, to be honest, when I look at how things have evolved and how things have changed, it just keeps coming back to the why, right? Like, I wholeheartedly believe in supporting physician well-being. I really believe these are some of the most incredible human beings on the planet. They're, smart and care about others and want to do good in the world and contribute, and yet they're struggling and miserable, and that's just not okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
So coming back to that why of how do we support each other, because I really do believe the world is a better place when physicians are healthy.
I agree 100%. And what I mean, that is such a journey. And you're right about it because the mission never really changes. The methods and all of that may, and they grow and they evolve, like you've alluded to. And so that's I think is powerful for people to hear that. Sometimes people want to start from the end. And I'm like, mm-mm, you start from the retreat. You start from one retreat, and then you know what I mean. And but the truth is that while you're doing the retreat, you really are developing the skills, the manpower, the capital, the connections, the audience, all of that for everything else. And so every business you're ever going to work on, any project you're ever going to work on, you're working on it when it seems like you're not. Because it's the same thing. It's a continuum. And so what a ride. That is exciting. And so someone heard you say that you still see patients and you want to do that till they take your stethoscope away. And they're like, So how is she doing retreats? And she's doing the coaching thing and she has a whole institute and she's working. Like, how is she doing that? So answer their question.
I think that's an important question. And I think that so many of us, we are high achievers and we just like bring on more and bring on more. I think being very mindful, very deliberate about what I say yes to, and very comfortable saying no. And it didn't used to be that way. That was a skill I definitely have needed to develop. So very deliberately saying yes to things that really matter to me and just letting the rest go, because while it may be important and nice, it's not really where I want to be spending my time and energy and talents. And so really staying focused on that piece of it matters. I actually, a year or two, had to step back and kind of reevaluate, do I want to keep practicing medicine? Because we've been growing, and to the point I'm like, really, where do I want to put my energy? And stepping back and really re-examining my values at this stage and my priorities at this stage really affirmed for me, yes, I really do want to keep practicing medicine. I totally love it. And so, so that clarity, I think, can help as well. And then I also have a beautiful team. So nobody, no entrepreneur runs their business on their own. You can't. And over the years, I have built out an absolutely beautiful team. I lean on, I count on. I'm so thrilled to have them and recognize that it's this common effort with a shared vision that allows us to keep evolving and keep growing in ways that feel like how we want to be showing up.
Okay, so I knew I was gonna really enjoy this interview. I did not know I enjoyed this much. This is and I say that because, you're an example of what is possible. Can you build this business and have a large impact in the physician community and still practice? And the answer to that question is yes. And the things that we need to do to make them happen, they're simple. They may not be easy, but they're simple, right? And so you're talking about really learning to say no, right? Like learning to say no, getting clear. So sometimes you have to go take a long walk or go take a vacation, go walk on the beach or whatever, and then just dig back into, okay, what are my priorities, and then build a team. And I will say, as introverted introvert who's a entrepreneur, those are three things I'd rather not be doing. Okay. I well, the clarity maybe because I like to spend time with myself, but as far as the no and the team, uh, it's like, yeah, it'll be easier for me to just do it by myself, and it's impossible, right? And so, man, this is so good. This is so fun. Thank you for sharing that. Now, so someone's listening is like, wow, it seems like she just had this trajectory and everything just fell into place. Did you ever have challenges? Did you ever feel like this is not working? Do you ever feel like I'm just gonna quit? Like I'm just gonna, where's my stethoscope? I'm done with this. Right? Like, did you ever have any of those moments and how did you handle them?
Yes, absolutely. I think anyone who tells you otherwise is full of BS, right? Because that's just not how life is. But let's think about it. How did you handle hardship in residency, right? How did you handle any hardship in your life? It's like, well, you figure it out and you keep going. And so absolutely we've hit bumps along the way. Um more than I could even possibly tell you. Like um there's no I think sometimes people think that their business is going to reach a point where they've arrived. And that's truly a fallacy that does not serve us well. There's different issues that you may be addressing, but there's always things that there's always learning opportunities. Let's put it that way. I think maybe how's that? Maybe that is one of the ways that helped me through some of the bumps because there really have been like enormous, at times enormous bumps.
Like
Um,
it's a whole MBA, that kind of learning
yes,
experience.
but to view them as learning opportunities. They don't define who I am. They don't limit the scope of my work and what I truly believe in supporting physicians and doing this work. They're just speed bumps. They're learning opportunities, and you keep going.
Man, I mean, for everyone listening, especially if you're an entrepreneur or you're thinking of, some mission you want to build a business around, this is an episode that at the end you're like, that was great, and you start over. Like really is that kind of episode. You just need to listen to it again. Um, Tell us about either an institution or an individual that your work impacted, and when you remember it, just makes it worth everything. What you have these times where you touch someone's life and they come back to you and say, "Wow, this is what happened at that retreat," or "This is what I'm now doing as the chief wellness officer somewhere." Pick one or two of those and share it. I just love for people to get a feel of the impact, because that's why we do this, right? The impact that your work is having.
I feel so fortunate that on a very regular basis, I have that type of feedback on a very, very regular basis, almost daily basis, right? So um, there's so many of the physicians I have worked with have gone on to be leaders in physician wellness themselves. they've done additional training, they've pivoted in different directions, and I see them just shining. And to know that I've played at least one tiny little role in that is really phenomenal. And how many times people have come to me and said, you know, whether it's a coaching client or whether it was someone at a retreat or whatever it might be, just shared with me how it's changed their life. For some people, they've left medicine and they've gained this clarity of, it was really time for me to turn into a new direction. For other people, they've stayed in medicine, but they're so joyful in their life, and it's impacted their marriage, it's impacted their children, it's impacted their love of medicine, it's impacted their patients. People, and this is one of the really cool things. People come back. It may be a month later, it could be a year later, sometimes it's many years later, and they come back and they just share with me their story about how things have shifted for them. And sometimes the circumstance is the same. Sometimes they're in the same job, the same marriage, they've still got kids, whatever it might be, but they're showing up so differently that it's almost like a different life. And when they share that story with me, I just honestly, it's goosebumps. It is complete, I just feel so fortunate to be able to help physician colleagues in this way. It's
Oh,
truly
man.
profound work.
Oh, man. Okay, cue the tissues, okay. That is I mean, and this is what this is I mean, in this phase, in the healthcare space, this is really what it's all about is, doctors rising and saying enough. Like,
Yeah.
and I'm gonna do something about it. And I really want to thank you for what you do. And, because we're not gonna know what the ripple effect is. I mean, I'm sure people contact you every day, but we're never gonna know the true impact of your work, because you touch someone who touches someone who touches we don't know, right? And so here you are touching thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, like, you don't know. And so I really do wanna thank you for embracing all the fears and the challenges and the road bumps and all of those things to build this, and for not only bringing change on an individual level but bringing change on an institutional level. That's really wild. So thank you for what you do, really sincerely, from my heart. Thank you.
Thank you. It's like I said, it is truly an honor and joy to be able to do this work. And I remember I look back on my early beginnings and I think now I'm like, what was I doing? I knew nothing. I knew nothing about running a business. I didn't even really want to know anything about running a business. I just wanted to bring people together and we connect and we learn and all of that, right? I look back on that and kind of see how much learning I've had in the interim. And I know that a part of this is perhaps what some people feel as they go into medicine, where it's kind of a non-decision. It's like, I can't not
Not
do
do
this
this,
anymore.
yes.
Like, I am here to do this. And it's almost like it's coming through me, but not necessarily from me, right? Like, and that might sound kind of, out there, but there is this sense of connecting to something bigger. And we are a movement that is changing medicine. We're changing lives. And to connect to that piece of it is just magic. It's total magic.
It's magic, you're magic, this episode is magic. I mean, come on, this is so good. All right, so people are like, "Dr. Una, where can we find her? Where can they find you, Dr. Stepien?"
So the best place is to go to the website. It's if you Google Institute for Physician Wellness, you will find our website. From there, you'll find that there's three main areas to work with me. And the first is the coaching program, She Thrives MD. And the second would be coaching in person at a live retreat. And we have two that are coming up that I'm so excited about. Well, actually, we have more than that. But we have one coming up in the winter. We always are in Mirabel, Tucson. So that's our little winter getaway. And then in the spring, we're going to be down in Costa Rica for the first time at this like 5-star retreat center. I'm really excited to bring a group of doctors there. And that one's going to be a longer retreat. Then in the fall, we're doing something even we've never done this before. We're going to Bali. I'm sorry, not
Nice.
yeah, we're going to Bali, the North Shore of Bali. So we've done most of our retreats have been in places in the US, or at least in North America. So this is a kind of, I don't know. I was just thinking like we're doing this, and so we're figuring it out.
Why
And then
not?
the third way that people can work with me on the website, you'll find the Chief Wellness Officer Training and Certification Program. And there's all the information there. So we have those all of that available to people at instituteforphysicianwellness.com.
There you go. Go check it out, people. Okay. Now, you talked about a movement earlier, and I tell people that the Doctors Changing Medicine podcast is not really a podcast. It's more of a movement of change among physicians. And we're like, there's a million of us. If we don't like the way things are, we change it. There's strength in numbers. And so I say, listen to it, get all you can get out of it. In fact, this one I said, listen to it twice. But then when you're done, share it with the physicians in your life, right? Because this is how we spread that change. This is how we show people what is possible. I think part of the reason why we're where we are is that we don't have enough examples of what an alternative could look like, right? And so the more we share those stories, the more people are like, oh, so I can change this, I can change that, I don't have to do this anymore, I can have control and all of that. So what would you say is the reason why the people listening should share this episode with the doctors in their lives?
It's interesting because I too am an introvert, and I tend to, um, believe it or not, I tend to be quite quiet and still. And so the thought about actually like sharing, like talking with a colleague, for example, about, hey, have you listened to this? That almost feels a bit uncomfortable to me. So when I think about, well, what's the motivation for doing that? I think part of it is really believing that there is something better for all of us, and helping that vision, that thought, um, propel us or motivate us to take a risk or get out of our comfort zone to just do it, right? Because it's making the world a better place. It really is making medicine a better place. And when I think about handing medicine on to the next generation, I want them to step into a much healthier system with healthier cultural norms, where all of us are truly living our best lives, delivering the best care, really serving our communities and each other. I want that. So I guess when you talk about why would they want to share this, like, well, if they believe in that and they want to be a part of that, then tell everybody.
All right. And she spoke to the introverts. She spoke to us. So now you have to share it. Thank you so much for coming on here. And thank you for um, taking us behind the scenes, sharing your journey. So this is not a highlight reel. This is a real deal. And there's so many valuable lessons to be pulled out of this. So thank you. Thank you for coming on.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
All right, people, you heard the good doc. So go share the episode because you believe. Okay. And I will see you on the next episode of the Doctors Changing Medicine podcast.